So bear hunting season just kicked off in BC here last week, which means two very important things for this channel. Number one, I have a literal mountain of gear in my gear locker over there that I need to review. Number two, I won't actually be able to post any of the reviews for several months because what I typically do is review as much gear as possible during the hunting season, and then I post those reviews during my downtime. And I wanted to find a solution for this moving forward because A, I want you guys to know what I'm looking at. B, when new stuff drops, people want kind of my initial impressions on those products, and maybe they don't want to wait for a full-blown review. And C, I'd actually like your feedback on the elements and the characteristics of each of these products that are important to you that you want me to test, review, and give feedback on. So we're going to kick that off with a series called Initial Impressions. So over the next couple weeks, what I'm going to do is bring out all the gear that I plan to review over the season and do this series of initial impressions reviews. And I'm going to break those down into three sections. Number one will be the testing protocol. So I will let you guys know how I plan to test this gear moving forward. And I invite, feedback and criticisms of that testing protocol. If you've got any other ideas, now's the time to chip them in. Section number two will be categories. This will be things like price, weight, feature set, materials, things that I can objectively observe as soon as I open the package or start playing around with the products. And the final section will be red flags. This will be things that from the moment I open it and start to go through it, they kind of leap out at me. One of the benefits of reviewing so much gear is you start to get a good eye for good design, poor design, things that are going to work, things that aren't going to work. So if you are on that kind of cutting edge and you want to get into a product right away, maybe I'll notice something that you should keep your eye on or that might dissuade you from purchasing it in the first place. So to kick things off, we are going to look at a pile of GoHunt apparel. I was just down in Vegas last week with the family. I was there for like 3 days, real quick trip. Just took my kids on spring break. So me and the wife and the kid just went on a mini vacation, had a great time. Vegas is a fantastic spot to go away for a few days. Weather was amazing, food was amazing. And while I was there, I got to stop in and see the crew at GoHunt, and they were gracious enough to send me home with a pile of gear for review. And I want to make a couple notes. All of the guys at GoHunt were very clear that they wanted honest feedback. They were like, listen, the only way this stuff can get better is if people in the industry and people who wear this stuff let us know what they think about it. So there was no trying to get a favorable review or color my opinion anyway. In fact, they were very transparent, even with a couple of things they don't like about some of these pieces or some of the things that they're thinking of changing moving forward. So that impressed me right out of the gate. Secondly, I'm just impressed at the overall quality of this gear. Like, they are not an apparel company. And so I've got 4 different pieces here. They might have, maybe a total of 6 or 7 pieces of apparel out so far. So they're definitely like getting their feet wet. They don't have a full line of apparel. I don't know if I expected it to be as nice as it is. Like the fit, the finish, the packaging, overall super high quality. I am also a big fan that this gear is actually being designed by hunters. You will know when I released my boxers, that was a big deal for me. I knew what I wanted in boxers, and I knew there were other hunters like me who were going to want the same qualities and characteristics. I think the guys at GoHunt have done a really good job of noting what was missing in the apparel industry or what they weren't satisfied with some of the more popular pieces from the other big brands. And they've done a good job of hand selecting a couple pieces to fit into each of those niches. And finally, pretty surprised how competitive the pricing is on this stuff. Like, we'll get into each piece as we go, but significantly less expensive than some of their competition. And I think this is a comment both on the increase in competition in the hunting space. As more competition and more companies move into creating apparel, there's really no choice but for the price to go down. And it kind of limits this like big 3 or big 5's ability to have like ludicrously priced products because nobody else is competing with them. And secondly, I think it's a comment on the democratization of the manufacturing process. Much like I was able to produce my own boxers, GoHunt is able to get access to the same material, likely the same manufacturers that the other large apparel brands have access to. And being a newer entrant into the space, one of the things they can compete on right out of the gate is price. So really excited to see that, because I think for people who are just getting into hunting, a couple of these pieces are great no-brainer budget pieces that look to me to go toe-to-toe with some of the bigger brands. Okay, first up, testing protocol. So I'm doing 2 different phases of testing with this gear. So I'm kind of right in the middle of my rucking season right now. So I do 3 to 5 rucks every week. I have 1 trail, takes me 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's about 3.5, 4 miles. I do about 1,000 meters elevation gain. It's a pretty strenuous hike. I do it with a 50-pound pack. And so with all of these pieces in different weather, I'm gonna wear them on a ruck. And the idea is I'm gonna wear them at least 3 to 5 times in a row without washing. I wanna see how durable they are, how abrasion resistant they are to where the pack straps sit. And I also wanna see how they fight odor. One of the quickest ways to see how well a piece of apparel fights odor is to sweat in it, let it dry, sweat in it, let it dry, sweat in it, let it dry, as many cycles as you can. Each time it dries, check it out. Did the stink stick around or did it not? In addition to the rucking testing, like I mentioned earlier, I'm about to kick off bear season full bore, pardon the pun. My first hunters get here early May, and then I basically have 6 straight weeks of guiding hunters. So my plan is to primarily use these 4 pieces interchangeably throughout that 6 weeks and really try to beat the crap out of it. Like wash it as little as possible, wear it as many days in a row as possible, and just see it how it stands up to like day after day, grinding it out, hunting bears. So I should have lots of different weather, so should be able to test all the different pieces in lots of different circumstances. And then at the end of bear season, I've got a break before goat season kicks off. So probably I will be able to come back and do a more thorough review of each piece and let you know how it stood up to both the rucking and the bear hunting protocol. Now, mentioning bear hunting is a great segue for me to give you a quick update about Mindful Hunter outfitting. So some of you may already know I recently acquired a 3,000 square kilometer hunting territory in British Columbia, where I offer bear hunts, alpine backpack mule deer hunts, and alpine backpack goat hunts. I have very limited openings for alpine mule deer and alpine goat hunts, but if either of those interest you, get in touch with me. More importantly, I still have 2 weeks open for black bear hunts here in British Columbia this year. So the week of May the 4th and the week of June the 8th, I've got some spots. I'm discounting these spots. I'm looking for guys who want to get in, get after it. We can spike camp, we can go up into the alpine, we can hunt from a wall tent, we can cruise logging roads. I got a river I'm gonna try floating. This is like badass, in the mountains, really high density of black bears, big bears. Like, it's gonna be a great hunt. So if you're interested in trying to squeeze in a spring black bear hunt, get a hold of me right away, jay@mindfulhunter.com. All right, the first piece we're gonna look at is the Atmosphere jacket. This is probably the newest release to their collection and the one I am most excited about. So first category is price. This comes in at $199 US. The next category is comparables. The Sitka Ambient is very close to this piece and would compare very well. Now there's multiple different options in the Sitka Ambient line now, but originally they just had the Sitka Ambient hoodie, which was quite close to this piece. The most striking difference being it only had a quarter zip, and this is a full zip jacket. Okay, let's talk use case and features. So this falls into the active insulation category, which means that it's a piece of insulation that you can wear while doing activities. You can wear it while hiking, you can also wear it while glassing, but most notably, it has the ability to keep you warm while still helping you expel moisture. So this jacket has 100 grams of Primaloft Evolve insulation, which is exactly how much the original Sitka Ambient hoodie has. This jacket has a 20D ripstop nylon shell, which I believe is a little bit thicker than the original Sitka Ambient. And in fact, That lack of durability was probably the Achilles heel with that piece. So seeing that GoHunt have stepped up the thickness of the shell is really nice to see. Another nice touch they've added is these stretch polyester cuffs. Really nice hand feel to them, and they fit quite snug around your wrists without pinching. And again, the final feature is this full frontal zip, which turns it into a full-blown jacket. Now, I will tell you right out of the gate, that's my one reservation with this piece. As a general rule, I don't like jackets. They don't layer as well as quarter zips. I don't find myself utilizing them as jackets very often. I tend to be a backpack hunter, not a truck hunter. So I don't take layers on and off as frequently as some other individuals. Now, I did speak with Lorenzo about that specifically, and he made a really good point. Because of the nature of this Primaloft insulation, it can really be sticky when you go to put it on over a base layer, especially a merino base layer or even a synthetic that has a high degree of polyester. And it is a nightmare to like get your sleeves straightened out, get all the bunching out from underneath your armpits. It can literally take like 7 or 8 minutes to put this thing on sometimes. Like it can be super annoying. The old Sitka Ambient anyways. And so his approach was make it a full jacket. It's easier to get on. It's easier to adjust your base layer underneath. I think that's a solid rationale. Time will tell if I think the addition of the zipper is a good thing or a bad thing, but that's one of the red flags I'm looking at moving forward. Now, as far as overall feel goes, pretty standard. To be honest, it feels exactly like the Sitka Ambient, except the shell is a little bit thicker. This insulation is exactly the same. It's a very comfortable piece to wear. It's warm without being suffocating. As I mentioned, I really like these cuffs. All the seams feel really nice. Just generally speaking, the piece feels great. Now, before I get into the fit section, I want to address some overall comments about GoHunt Apparel. So there's been some comments on Rockslide that people feel like the sleeves are too long and the torso is too long. And I want to say, I don't necessarily disagree with those comments, but I don't think those comments are actually a negative thing. I think most pieces, the sleeves are too short and the torsos are too short. If you legitimately spend a lot of time backpacking, once you get apparel on and it's kind of caught underneath your backpack straps, the last thing you want to do is as you reach forward, have your shirt kind of sleeves hiking up all the time. And again, you like a drop hem in the rear or a little bit more coverage over your seat, because as soon as that shirt or insulation piece slides up underneath your backpack hip belt, it's such a pain to like drag it back down. And it's also nice to have a little bit of weather protection kind of above your hips. So I would agree that the pieces might have slightly longer sleeves and torsos than you would expect, but I think this is actually a positive thing in my opinion. Final note on that, if you ever want to analyze the DNA of a piece of apparel or any gear in general, just look at the lead designer. And right now, Lorenzo, Brady, and Trail have a lot of weight as far as how these pieces are getting designed. And all three of those dudes are tall, with lanky torsos and long arms. It's kind of like I've always said Stone Glacier Apparel is built to fit tall, skinny guys, because look at Kurt, he's a tall, skinny guy. So the things that he designs that fit him well will tend to fit similarly shaped people. So I'll tell you right now, if you are a short, stocky guy that has short arms and a short torso, be prepared to have the sleeves fit a little bit long. Okay, as far as fit goes, the first thing that jumped out to me is that it's a little tight across the upper back. So that kind of area there. So I am 6'1", 230 pounds, pretty athletic build. I have a 49-inch chest. And so overall, this jacket fits great. But I am a little concerned that when wearing a backpack, I might feel it's a little constrictive kind of through the upper shoulders and upper back. But once I break it in, that might not be an issue whatsoever. I could have sized up to a triple XL, but you will see the sleeve length and the torso length is perfect. Like, this is exactly how I want a piece like this to fit me. And I was worried that if I went up to a triple XL, it was gonna be too boxy in the torso and the sleeves were gonna be too long. Now, one quick note I will make about their sizing chart is that they say a double XL should fit somebody with a chest size 50 to 53 inches. I'm gonna disagree with that. Like I say, I measured my chest this morning, 49 inches. That would put me in an XL. I think anybody with a 49-inch chest is gonna be way too tight in an XL. I tried the XL on, it was not comfortable. So if I were you, I would size up one sizing in this piece. But again, other than that, jacket fits great. Also, I'm wearing the Approach hoodie under here so that you get an idea of how it fits layered. Last thing I'll note about the Atmosphere jacket is the hood. Nice dual seamed articulated hood, doesn't fall down in front of my eyes, doesn't have too much material here. Now, there's no drawstrings, there's no way to change the fitment of the hood, but overall, really nice hood design. All right, up next, we have the Approach hoodie. Now, this is a synthetic base layer, comes in priced at $55, which is insanely cheap. Might take first place for the cheapest synthetic base layer you can buy from a hunting apparel company. If you're looking at comparables, think about the Stone Glacier Core Lightweight or the Stone Glacier de Havilland. Now, this is a perfect rucking hoodie. So this is something that you can wear in the off season as well as the on season. I've already taken this on 2 rucks since I got home. I am really loving this piece already at the gate. I don't want you to take that as my stamp of approval because I still have to put it through some pretty rigorous testing. But as long as this hold up, I will be buying more of these for sure. I recommend getting one in a solid color because you can wear it for hiking, you can wear it around town, you're gonna be able to wear it all year, and then maybe pick up a second one in camo if you want one just to be dedicated for hunting. Now, my buddy Cody did run this piece last year, and he noticed it started to stink quicker than he would have expected for him. Now, that can be a very personal thing. So again, I'm gonna reserve comments until I've had a chance to run it. It does have some antimicrobial and odor fighting properties kind of baked into the material. It doesn't mention on the website exactly which one, whether it's like a Silvertech or a Polygene, but there's some additive, an odor fighting additive, and some of those odor fighting additives interact adversely with different people depending on their pH level and other things. So I don't know if maybe that's what happened with Cody, or maybe it does take on stink rather quickly. Only time will tell, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for. That's my red flag with this piece, is how well is this gonna fight odor. Now, this is an 88% polyester, 12% spandex blend. Also has a UPF 50+ rating. And the one thing I will note as another red flag for me is the lack of a front zipper. So I really like a quarter zip base layer. I tend to get really hot, especially in something like this, which is an early season piece. I like the ability to dump heat and just open that zipper wide open. I understand the argument for not adding one, but for me, I would like to see a quarter zip version of this same hoodie. Now, if we move on to feel, this is one of the standout elements of this piece. Typically, when garments have a high degree of polyester, they have like a scratchy kind of feel to them, and the stretch can be somewhat limited. This is one of the nicest hand-feeling garments in the hunting industry I've ever had. It's very nice on the skin. It's super comfortable. When you sweat in it, it doesn't get that gross, sticky feeling. It holds up very well. Both the rucks I went in were pretty warm. I sweat a lot on both of those hikes. Drying properties, I would give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It's a little bit heavier than the Sitka Core Lightweight, and moderately heavier than like a Kuiu Tiburon Hybrid, both of which are very good early season base layers. I would say it's about the same weight or maybe a little bit lighter than the Stone Glacier de Havilland. So I wouldn't say this is like an early season piece. We've got the Basin Merino here we're gonna look at. I think these two would pair particularly well. If you were doing like an August pronghorn archery hunt where you're gonna be sitting in a blind, probably wouldn't recommend this one. I would go with something more ultralight like the Basin. But for late August, all of September, this thing screams archery elk to me. That's exactly what I plan on using this piece for. Okay, here's the Approach hoodie, again in double XL. As far as I'm concerned, this is a perfect fit. Everything about this fits the way I want a base layer to fit. Now, I could maybe size down to an XL, but I don't like things too tight in my base layers. And this isn't baggy by any stretch of the imagination. They do describe this as having an athletic fit. Like they've specifically made it narrower in the waist and bigger in the chest. So if you do tend to be a guy who's a bit heavier in the gut, you're gonna wanna size up in this one. Now, funnily enough, I think here their sizing chart is off in the opposite direction. So now a 49-inch chest would put me in a triple XL, and there's no way I want to be wearing a triple XL. If anything, I'm borderline single XL, double XL. So if you're going to go off their sizing chart, I would size down from what it's recommending based on how this garment fits me. Hood fitment is quite nice. It's articulated, doesn't have any pointy spots. It's not draping over in front of my eyes. I don't got a ton of extra material here in the side. Overall, big fan of this hood. Moving on, we've got the Black Rock Grid Fleece hoodie. Now, this piece retails for $85 USD, which again, insanely competitive. I don't know how they're doing what they're doing, and I don't care. For any of you who need apparel, you are not gonna find a grid fleece of this quality for 85 bucks anywhere else. If we're looking at comparables, think Sitka Core Heavyweight or the Stone Glacier Helio Pullover. I will say right out of the gate, I don't tend to like grid fleece tops. For my active insulation layer, I prefer something like this Atmosphere jacket with the Primaloft Evolve insulation. The grid fleeces to me are not quite as warm and they don't dry as fast. However, they do layer tighter. So if you're gonna use it as a true mid layer in late season and put another layer over top of it, it will be tighter to your skin and it won't create as much bulk underneath that second and third layer. Also, way more durable. As a general rule, grid fleece is like the F350 dually of apparel. Like you can beat the hell out of these things. They do have a tendency to pile, like get the little balls that form. I don't know if this particular one is gonna do it or not. Even though I'm not traditionally a fan of grid fleeces, I wanna give this one a go. And I think especially with something like spring bear hunting, there's a real argument to have a piece like this in your arsenal. The other comment I wanna make is that grid fleeces are way less expensive than something like the Atmosphere jacket. So if you're just starting to build your apparel line and you're on a more strict budget, add one of these first. Listen, it's gonna do 90% of what this Atmosphere jacket does, and it's coming in at almost a third of the cost. This also has a really interesting antimicrobial treatment. It's called HEIQ, and it's like some plant-based mint layering. It doesn't actually have any scent to it, but it's supposed to last for up to 20 washes and like refresh itself every time you wash it. I don't know how much of that is marketing jargon and how much of that will actually work, but that's one of the things I'm going to keep my eye on during testing. Now, this is 92% polyester and 8% spandex, and it's 180 grams per square meter. So if you're looking to compare it to other grid fleeces, that's the weight that you want to use. And the large comes in at 15.3 ounces. Now, as far as feel, again, got these really great polyester cuffs. I like this material they've chosen a lot. They've also done something pretty innovative here with the thumb holes. Instead of creating a vertical slit, they have these two kind of overlapping horizontal flaps that your thumb comes down and through. And it's actually a lot more anatomical and seems to fit a lot better. Overall, the garment feels fantastic. It's got a lot of stretch to it. nice hand feel, this really kind of cool stretchy pocket up at the front, which is nice because normally the material people use on these front pockets is stiffer, and the only thing you're ever going to fit in there is like a card of some kind, but you could legitimately put some stuff in here and the pocket would stretch out to fit whatever you needed it to. But overall, great hand feel. Okay, double XL fits me perfect. Now this has the same sizing chart as the Atmosphere jacket. So I think it's a little bit off. 49-inch chest. I am in a double XL. This is exactly how I want a piece to fit. One of the things I really appreciate about their sizing is that the Sitka stuff tends to be really boxy in the bottoms, and the Stone Glacier stuff, by the time I get a chest big enough for me, the sleeves and torso are even significantly longer than these pieces are. I think GoHunt has done a great job at kind of combining the best of both worlds. It has a more athletic fit while still giving me room in the sleeves and the hem. And again, if we put this hood on, same design elements as all the rest of their pieces. They don't have a bunch of extra material on the hood. It doesn't fall down in front of my eyes. It's got this nice dual seam articulation. It kind of hugs my head, blocks me from any sun on the back, but doesn't obscure my vision. Overall, great job. All right, before we get into the last piece, I want to make a quick note about my own apparel line. So most of you will know by now that I released my own boxers. You can go to forgedinthebackcountry.com. I've released the boxers, a new waterproof hat, and 5 new t-shirts designs. This is one of them for this year. And for every $5 you spend at forgedinthebackcountry.com between now and April 30th, you will get 1 entry to win a Swarovski ATX 85mm spotting scope. So all you got to do, add some gear to your cart. Let's say you buy $40 worth of apparel, you will get 8 entries to win the Swarovski ATX 85 spotting scope. So again, head on over to forgedinthebackcountry.com. Full contest rules are on my website. Last piece, the Basin Merino hoodie. Now this comes in at $100, so probably one of the more expensive pieces. I think that's likely a testament to the New Zealand merino that they're using. There's no getting around that. Good material just costs good money, but it's definitely one of their more expensive pieces for what you're getting. For comparables, you'd be looking at the Stone Glacier Chinook or the Kuiu Ultra Merino 145. Now again, much like the Grid Fleece, I don't typically wear merino base layers. I don't like that they take so long to dry. I don't like that they tend to lose their shape really fast. And traditionally, they haven't been particularly durable. So 3-4 years ago, I switched to all synthetic base layers. I've never looked back. However, there are a lot of people who like wearing merino base layers, and I'm always open to the fact that there may have been textile developments that have kind of solved some of the issues. So I am going to be running this piece this year, and I'm looking forward to see if they fixed any of the issues that I typically have with merino base layers. So a large weighs 9.1 ounces, and it's an 81-14-5 blend of merino, nylon, and spandex, and comes in at 160 grams per square meter. Now this is a relatively thin base layer. And so if we're talking red flags, that's mine with this guy coming right out of the gate. How well is it going to stand up to the brush? Am I going to get a little branches and twigs kind of going to pick at this and rip tiny holes in it as I'm walking through the brush? How durable is this thing going to be? And when it gets wet from sweat, and my pack is rubbing on it and my hip belt is kind of grinding it, is that going to rub through? Am I going to get, light spots where it starts to kind of deteriorate in the high wear zones? That would be, some of my initial concerns. Now, I do like that they went with the full quarter zip, and you can see this is what I would like them to have put on the Approach hoodie. And who knows, maybe they'll release one with a quarter zip moving forward into the future. I will say, as far as the feel goes, other than the fact that it's so thin, it's very comfortable. Like, you put this thing on and it's smooth against the skin, not scratchy at all, has a great amount of stretch in it. Again, will it retain its shape once it gets hot and sweaty and I'm on day 3 of a hunt? That remains to be seen. Okay, last piece, double XL, same as all the rest of the pieces. That's the other comment I will say. At least they've been really consistent with their sizing. In some other companies, I'm like a XL in one piece, a double XL in another piece. All of these pieces, I'm a double XL, and I feel that's exactly where I should be. This one, again, is the same sizing chart as the Atmosphere. So if you have an athletic build to you, I would size up. Really nice, you know, fitted through the waist. It hangs, it drapes nice. Little bit of extra material in the sleeves so you can pull the cuffs down if you want. Now, this probably is my least favorite hood. It has more material, and this is one of the issues with Merino, is that it does not retain shape very well. Like, it just droops. So I'm sure they've done whatever they could, but listen, I'm gonna be wearing a ball cap anyways, which is gonna keep this up here. But if I had my way, I would probably remove maybe 2.5 inches of material, and I would have kept this back about here. Because I'm telling you right now, if I'm not wearing a ball cap and I go to put this on, by the time I start hiking, it's just gonna keep drooping over. So the hood on this is not my favorite. But other than that, I mean, it feels nice for a Merino piece. So there you go, fit of the Basin Merino hoodie. Okay, so before we wrap it up, the one thing I wanted to do real quick is just go over the red flags again with each of these pieces. And I'm not trying to do this to be negative. I'm trying to do this to really highlight the fact that this is not a full-blown mindful review. I'm not giving any of these pieces a stamp of approval. What I'm trying to do is give you my best guess at how they're gonna perform given how much apparel I've been able to wear and objectively looking at the feature set of each piece. But I want everybody to go in with eyes open that there may be elements of each of these pieces that don't perform up to standard, and I won't know that until I get to test it fully. So with the Atmosphere jacket, because it's so similar to the Sitka Ambient, I feel quite confident in it. The only real red flag for me is fit. As I mentioned during the fit section, it is pretty tight across the upper back. So if you are a really broad-chested guy, you're gonna need to size up. And what will remain to be seen is, like, once I have a pack on, a couple layers on, is it really constricting, or does it kind of like warm up and stretch out a bit and feel a little bit more loose? That's what I want to test moving forward. With the Approach hoodie, the lack of a quarter zip is a bit of a red flag to me. Is that really gonna bug me? It's not overly tight in the neck, but when I start to get really hot and I can't undo that quarter zip, is that gonna be a deal breaker for me? Also, how fast is this thing gonna dry? I haven't really got to test that out yet, and it is a bit of a heavier material, so that remains to be seen. And then finally, what's the stink factor like? When I've got this thing on day 4 of a backcountry hunt, how bad am I gonna stink in this compared to maybe something like the Basin Merino hoodie? Now, no real red flags with the Black Rock grid fleece, other than just the general red flags I have with any grid fleece. And so, how fast is it gonna dry? How warm is it really gonna keep me? Overall, I don't have too many reservations with this piece. Again, the material like this grid fleece has been in production for a very long time, so it's not like you're risking a lot by picking up a grid fleece. And then finally, the Basin Merino hoodie. Standard, typical, Merino red flags. Will it retain its shape? Will it dry fast enough? And then with this particularly light material, is it gonna handle some abuse? How's it gonna stand up to walking through the brush? How's it gonna stand up to backpack straps kind of grinding into it over a couple weeks in a row? All of that remains to be seen. So all of that being said, I am very optimistic about all 4 of these pieces. Having tried them on, having rucked with one of them, I think they've done a great job so far. So I'm looking forward to finishing the testing on all of these pieces. All right, folks, that's my initial impressions. with most of the GoHunt apparel released to date. I would love your feedback. What else do you want to see me test? What have been your results with wearing any of this apparel so far? Are there any other pieces from them that you want to see me test? Please drop all those notes in the comment section down below. Did you find this valuable? Do you find non-biased, unsponsored gear reviews valuable to you? I am not financially incentivized by any brands whatsoever, so the only people I need to care about is the end user and my ability to give you objective, useful data. If you find that valuable and you want to help support that, you go to mindful-reviews.com, sign up for a subscription, come and join the community. We have a ton of great members with varying levels of experience who are more than happy to share advice whenever they can. So go over mindful-reviews.com, pick any one of these subscription plans that you want, and between now and April 30th, 2025, anyone who becomes a member will be automatically entered to win a pair of Sig Sauer Zulu 10 15 power binoculars. So again, mindful-reviews.com. If you guys can engage with this content in any way, shape, or form, I would greatly appreciate it. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thank you for tuning in.